Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
Our weekend has been turned upside down.
Up until this past week, the forecast for October was drier than usual and milder than usual.
So a little warmer, not as wet as it has been on average, not as wet as it has been recently.
Right.
But nice.
But they've been really wrong. I mean, they were wrong about the dry part in the first place. We've had, and it's not a complaint, we're over the moon about getting as much rain as we have. We got like 0.57 inches this past week, which is awesome for us. That means we didn't have to water for a couple of days in a row. Then we watch a YouTube channel called Direct Weather. And the reason we watch it is because we're just not getting great weather forecasts around here. And this is a young guy who loves weather and I assume is actually studying, he's college age I think now, studying to become a weather guy. And he will pull up all the different models, the computer models that they use to predict weather and all that kind of stuff. And he'll show you usually most of the United States, including us. And that's the hard part, is everybody wants to forecast what's happening east of the Mississippi. Great, we don't live there.
Or west of the Continental Divide.
In terms of predicting my weather, that's only marginally useful.
Yeah, the mountains are kind of tricky.
Right. So, Direct Weather suddenly had this thing that said, there's a chance of a heck of a big storm. A big snowstorm coming down out of the Pacific Northwest. And we're like, danger, danger, warning, warning, Will Robinson. So we started watching it like a hawk, right? Yeah, well, Tuesday of next week, actually it starts Monday now because they're bringing it even earlier than they were initially. We're going to be below freezing at night for 4 days in a row, at least.
Yeah, now originally we were just going to have one night of 30 to 32 degree temperatures at night, which is not a big deal. We could handle that with the heater in the greenhouse and some row covers and a few other things out here in the yard.
But when you start talking about getting down to like 25 degrees, party's over.
Yeah, so we've made a few decisions.
Right. In the yard, well, first of all, we'd already made some decisions out there because the indeterminate tomatoes, for instance, were basically done with the exception of like 2 plants at the very end of the row. So I turned off the irrigation to everything except the 2 plants and the roselle that was growing there. And then in the determinate plants, I was still watering most of that because they were still producing. We're not getting a huge amount, but we're getting a steady stream in.
It's enough to keep watering.
Yeah.
Well, at least it was until we get told it's going to freeze.
Right. And this week we had decided that we were going to cut back on all the different beans because we have plenty of green beans. We have enough purple beans and we have enough yellow beans. And the quality, particularly with the purple beans, was going downhill quickly. We were tough from square one, so we just decided we're going to let that all go to seed. Fine. So that means we cut back on the water there. We're not trying to keep them gorgeous anything. There's a little bit of viral junk that's gotten into the 1 bean bed, so it was going to be pretty much toast. We figured maybe 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more. The winter squash has been looking shaggy for a couple of weeks, but the squash wasn't ripe. So we're like, okay, well, we're just going to leave it because we don't want to harvest before we have to.
Yeah, we have an awful lot of butternut squash out there.
Yeah, somewhere around 14 or 16 or something like that. And that's assuming that, this one's stuck in the fence. I'm going to have to, I don't know, I'm going to have to cut the fence to get that out.
No, we'll cut the squash. We'll cut on one side and we'll cut the other
I think
side.
It's got 2 pieces of fence that it's got to dealing with.
That's okay. We'll still do that.
we may have to mince it in order to get it out of the fence.
We're smarter than a squash, you know.
Some days, only some days. So the potatoes have been harvested, so that's not a problem. The onions have been harvested, that's not a problem. We have leeks out there. Leeks are very cold tolerant, they'll be fine. The only other thing that's out there in the yard now, there's a couple of old brassica containers that probably just need to go away. The cabbage didn't head right, and there's 2 heads out there that probably needed to go away a month ago. I just haven't gotten to it. And then we have a whole stack of sweet potatoes.
Yeah, they're kind of growing all over the place.
Oh, it's our sweet potato jungle. Isa loves to sit in her sweet potato jungle and look out at the world because it's really, I mean, it's hard to, actually don't like walking into it because you have no idea what's under the leaves. So the carrot bucket will need to go into the greenhouse. And and or we'll look at it. We might just harvest it. We'll see. And then the sweet potatoes will need to be harvested. We talked very seriously about what we were going to do with the greenhouse.
This is kind of a bittersweet decision.
Well, the hydroponics were set up late this year. They should have been set up at least a month earlier than they were, maybe 2. So we have gotten a decent production off of them.
And it's actually growing pretty well. I was about to go change the nutrients. I think we're just going to have those tomatoes completely chopped down, and we'll ripen the tomatoes another way.
Right. What we've essentially decided we're going to do is, in the olden days when we lived like in Massachusetts and stuff, and we knew that there was going to be a heavy frost, we would pull our tomato plants, hang them upside down, and stick them in the garage.
At the time when we were trying to ripen tomatoes, it never got below freezing.
No.
It was perfect for ripening tomatoes, so that we had tomatoes for Thanksgiving, and I think a few years.
Maybe once or twice we were able to get them all the way through to Christmas.
That's right.
Here I've been able to do that a bunch of times. But the last couple of years, all of a sudden we've been having not just a freeze, which, 32 degrees, it'll burn a few things, might kill 1 or 2 things, because freezing is always spotty. You'll get one little spot that destroys everything, and then the plant next to it's going, everything okay? What's wrong, George? Are you okay over there? So what we've decided, because we sat down and thought about it, what have we already harvested? What do we already have put away? So what I've been doing for the last couple of days, in my thousands of hours of spare time, is...
oh, wait a second. You don't have any spare time, because yesterday we had to go to Seligman because...
I had jury duty, yeah.
You had jury duty. That was an interesting day.
It was. We decided how we were going to approach this. There's years when you have a bunch of stuff that's out there and you're like, we're really going to work hard to try and save this stuff. We're really going to, we're going to put double row covers on. We're going to do everything. The best thing you could do if you were really trying to save something, water the heck out of it so it's got a good reservoir of water, so it's well watered, it's not stressed in any other way, and cover it with 2 row covers if you have them. Just really cover them, because usually during the night sometime is when you'll get that really cold freeze. If it's got something over the top of it, the bed is still going to be radiating heat up into that something.
Right.
And it'll keep the plants from freezing. We decided that this year, since a bunch of the stuff is already done, it just doesn't make sense to scramble.
In the greenhouse, we still have cucumbers. They're pretty much done producing.
They're slow right now, but I'm still getting a couple of cucumbers a week.
We have the tomatoes, and they're loaded. There's an awful lot of
They are
green
just,
tomatoes.
it looks like grapes. There's so many. They really are, especially the cherry tomatoes are just like bunches of grapes hanging down.
We also have peppers that are also producing well.
They're producing really well. The only thing in the greenhouse that I'm not happy about is we've got a cantaloupe out there.
Yeah.
And
well, we knew that was going to be a question when we decided to go ahead and let that grow out there.
Right. It's got 2 fruits on it.
So I think that's where we're going to put our attention, to see if we can help that vine survive so that those cantaloupe have a chance of surviving. Because, yes, it's the same variety that we're growing out in the yard here, which we don't think they turned out too good this year in terms of taste.
They didn't. They were just, and we think it's all the stress, because we were listening to some people in other parts of the United States who were growing watermelons. We grew watermelons too. We had several come off. They were okay. One
was better than the others.
Yeah, but they were just not as flavorful as they usually are.
They're really watery.
And I don't think it was just, I don't know what was going on. It was just like a lot of people had trouble with melons of all different kinds.
It's gardening. Things happen. With the greenhouse, we have the option of bringing in 1 or 2 of those pots of peppers if we decide that's what we want to do.
Right.
Really, the one thing that we have to make sure has a shot of surviving out there is that cantaloupe plant.
Yeah, that's the one thing we'll probably fight with Mother Nature over. We'll probably see if we can wrap it or something like that to create a little microclimate. I've been harvesting herbs and drying them, and I've got the dehydrator running down in the studio right now. I did a big batch of tarragon the other day. I've got a big batch of oregano going today. And I have mint and rosemary cut and sitting in the kitchen. And I'm going to harvest more from the greenhouse before we get hit. I have the weekend to get through that part. But the goal is to really get up the herbs because I expect the herbs to be knocked out. We've got a bunch of summer-sensitive herbs in there, and they will all get fried. The majority of the vegetables in there, I have carrots, I have kohlrabi,
Bok choy,
spinach, beets,
radishes.
Oh, another kind of radish.
One that you might like.
Yeah. And a couple of different kinds of broccoli and mini broccoli, and then I've got seedlings.
Pretty much all brassicas.
Almost all brassicas, because we'd already really, and we're way ahead this year in comparison to where we were last year. This is where we should be, or maybe we're still probably a couple of weeks behind, but we're way better off this year than we were last year in terms of getting our seedlings set. So I already have a bunch of brassicas that have been potted up out of the seedling trays into buckets. And as the other buckets clear out, especially as we take the sweet potatoes out, that'll be perfect because that's a different family. But I've got a bunch of lettuce coming on. And lettuce, despite the fact that we think of it as a rather fragile plant,
it really is
actually incredibly cold tolerant. The plan is that I do have a lot of very small brassica seedlings, and the tiny little seedlings, before they get their first leaves, are more susceptible to frost.
Yeah, they are.
So what I'm going to do with them is I'm going to put a heat mat under them.
And we'll just put the lids, the domes on the top, and then cover it with...
Yeah, and I'll just cover it at night. And it'll just be on for nighttime. They don't need the heat mat during the day. And I'm not going to turn the heat mats up. I actually need to double check. I think I know what the correct temperatures are, but I can go to Johnny Select Seeds, and they will have the optimum growing temperatures, soil growing temperatures. And I'll set the heat mat to those temperatures and just keep the soil. It's probably at about 65 degrees is my guess. And just keep the soil at those temperatures for the nights that it's going to get cold. And that should keep, we've done that before and it has worked.
Right.
So that's the plan because I don't want to lose those. They're doing really well. I've got a whole stack of lettuce that's come up in the last couple of days. They're not big enough to transplant yet. And then I've got some brassicas that I could probably pot up. But if I do, I'll still keep them on the grow bench and I'll cover the whole thing with a blanket at nighttime.
Well, there's a couple of things that really led us to this decision. One was that propane cost has gone through the roof. Yeah. It's up a third over last year, which makes the propane really cost prohibitive to try to heat as large a space as we'd have to heat right now to keep everything alive. The second thing is pretty much everything in the greenhouse, apart from the tomatoes and those other plants, are done.
Right. Well, we had I've been harvesting peppers like crazy. I've got a stack of chilies on the kitchen counter that I'm going to strain to dry, and we have another decent quantity of Godfather peppers, which are they look like a banana pepper, but they taste like a sweet bell. And then there's a bunch of more chili peppers. I can pick them green or red; doesn't make any difference. And we'll just those. I was kind of deciding on those anyway. They were almost done because they're really not producing any new peppers. So all I was trying to do with them at this point was let them finish the peppers they were wearing. And if I have to harvest, that's not a great loss.
In the past, because of our travel schedule, we tended to plant crops that we had to harvest before we left and then put up and or harvest after we got back.
Right.
And put up.
Right.
So a lot of it was focused on canning and freezing and things like that. And last year, we ate fresh vegetables most of the summer, actually from about March until now.
Well, we never stopped eating brassicas all winter. We are trying to eat more seasonally in the sense that sometimes it means you don't put up as much, but you also don't buy anything. So maybe instead of, we don't like to can carrots, we would just use them fresh. So we either used them stir fry or we made carrots. you know, or if we did can them, they were canned as part of a soup or a stew. We ate tons and tons of fresh squash. We're trying to work smarter, not harder, and enjoy the bounty of the season. We had a big thing of chicken soup last night for dinner, and then we did a reprise of that for lunch today. And tonight will be pizza night. I've got a pizza bubbling away in there. Every single vegetable, I mean, the chicken broth came from the chicken that we had. Henry baked a whole chicken. In fact, a couple of people commented it looked delicious and they'd be right over for dinner.
And it was delicious.
And it was delicious. But when we get to the end of it, you know, I'm not fond of dark meat. So he uses the dark meat to make paprika chicken because it doesn't taste like dark meat.
Or something else.
Yeah, or usually, but it's frequently paprika chicken.
Still have the bones, still have the skin.
Yep, and we save bones from the whole process anytime. Like when you did the paprika chicken, you boned the thighs and stuff before you cooked them. So that became a bone broth, which was then used to make chicken soup. And last night, I commented to Henry, I said, you know, the green beans were last year's green beans.
We're going to be coming to the end of last year's green beans.
Yeah, there's only maybe a dozen more packages. The green beans were ours.
Carrot was ours.
The carrots, two of them, because I went and pulled another one. Carrots were ours. In fact, one of them, I literally just went outside, brought it in, washed it off, and cut it up.
Bok choy was ours.
Bok choy was ours. So,
about the only thing that was in that soup that we had last night and today for lunch that we didn't grow ourselves was the chicken bones.
Chicken bones, and then I used soy sauce and sherry. And that was it. I mean, everything else was ours. So it's really nice to be able to sit there and go, every single thing here is ours. I mean, yeah, we bought that chicken, but we bought that chicken on sale several months ago when they were having a big special on whole chickens, and I just filled the freezer with whole chickens. You know, perfectly fine.
Do you know what time it is?
It is.
Past time.
It is. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because obviously we will be doing a whole bunch of stuff. And we will definitely keep everybody apprised of what happens with the garden and what happens with the greenhouse and all that stuff. But we decided that we're going to eat more seasonally, and therefore we're not going to kill ourselves or our propane bill by trying to heat the heck out of the greenhouse. We will probably put a heater out there anyway.
We'll put a heater out there, but I'm only going to use one propane cylinder for that this year. I'm going to use the other one for the utility building to keep that warm.
We just decided that seasonal growing and seasonal eating is going to be the preferred technique. So we'll cover things where we can. We will probably give a little bit of heat to the greenhouse. We're going to take off the shade covers because that'll give more solar in there. We meant to do that this past week, but every time we had the time, it was raining or too windy. You know?
Yeah, and it's too windy right now, and it's raining.
Yeah, so that was another unforecast rain. Last time I checked, we had 0.03 inches of unforecast rain again today. We woke up this morning and went, that's awful cloudy, you know, and there was no forecast last night at bedtime.
Yeah. Today, while you're watching this show, Irene's going to be in her enameling class again.
Yep.
And while she's doing that, I have a whole stack of stuff to take care of around here that needs to be put away before it gets frozen. We have a bunch of hoses that we run only in the summertime to provide water different places.
We'll drain those.
I'm gonna have to roll those up, drain them, and find a place to put them where they're out of the way but still safe. Yeah. Things like that. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
Well, you know what?
Lots of cleanup to do.
Yeah.
So, until next time, bye.
Bye. Keep brainstorming.
We're going to be brainstorming all weekend, I think.